What is up, guys? Welcome back to another average video. If you guys haven't been here before, we do everything hunting, fishing, blogs, reviews, how-tos, and anything in between. So if anything like that interests you, consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, in today's video, we are going to be doing the part 2 of last video, which is how to actually ask permission for a field that you're trying to hunt. We're also going to be talking a little bit about setup, not a whole bunch. We might go in depth on that in another video. Comment down below if you guys want to see something like that. Alrighty, without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Number one question that I have written down here is, once you find a field, how do you go about asking permission for it? Do you look on Onyx? Do you look on Beacon? How do you find his or her address, his or her phone number, stuff like that, and go about asking? So first off, I'd like to say that I personally use Onyx. If you guys haven't used this app before, it's an amazing app. They show you addresses, they show you locations, and it's pretty much platted out perfectly for user information. Once you go on there and actually find it, if you do use Beacon, it's free. It's a little bit harder to use, but then you have to go to White Pages to actually find the address or something like that. You might have the wrong person. But I've done it before when I was younger, when I couldn't afford to pay for Onyx all the time. But if you have a little bit extra, that would be one thing that could change your hunting game, is Onyx hunting. Number two question is, how do you actually ask for permission? When you go up to the person, do you just jump right to the chase? Do you talk to them for a little bit? I have a little bit different method than most. I basically go up there and I talk to him for a little bit. I kind of tell him what my plans are, and then I kind of jump into the chase at the end. I don't really just say, hey, my name's this, can I hunt this? I talk to them for a little bit, see how their day has been going, just little things like that. I think that it helps kind of warm them up to me. Some people might disagree with this completely, but that's kind of how I do it personally. Number three is, once you've actually obtained the field, how do you actually set up in it? And a lot of this information is going to be very basic, but that was the whole point, was to try to do it for beginners, some people that haven't done this before, that don't even know how to go about doing it. So first off, I'd like to talk about wind. When you set up in the direction of the field, you always want the wind to your back for most part. Sometimes you can't get this, but I think that's the best. Usually when the geese or waterfowl will land, they like to land into the wind. So that's one of the best setups. Also, like the guys mentioned that we're going to talk to here soon, they mention that they like to have the sun behind them as well. Now, this isn't always possible because the wind direction might be different from the sun, but if possible, that's the best setup we like to use. As far as number of decoys, it kind of depends on how the field was before you actually got permission. If you got permission that night and watched them, usually you'll kind of try to count how many geese were in there, and you'll kind of try to match how many geese were actually in there. So if there was, say there was 6 dozen geese in there, you want to try to have that amount of decoys set up, as well as matching their formation. So if they're in little groups of family groups, you want to try to match that as best as you can. You don't want to just have one giant clump if there is a bunch of just little groups, which they are in the early season. Next, we're going to talk about blind direction. I mentioned that you wanted the sun to your back, which not always is the case that you can have. Sometimes there's just no other hide but having the sun to your side, or maybe just a little bit in front of you. It's not the end of the world, but it would be very beneficial to have it to your back. So in most cases, you want to find the best hide. Now, there might be like a little bit of switchgrass in the middle of a field. There might be some standing corn, stuff like that. You don't always have to be right on where the geese were if there's absolutely no hide, because if they can see you, then that's not going to help you at all. Alrighty, that's my 2 cents on it, and like I said before, this is our opinion. This isn't the way that you have to do it, or that we're saying is the best way or the only way. So we're gonna give a couple of my buddies a call, and we're gonna talk to them and see how they go about asking permission and setting up their fields for the hunt. Kyle, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm filming a video here. My camera's set up right behind me. And I wanted to ask you a couple questions about how you go about asking permission once you've found a field that you want to hunt, right?
Yep.
So my first question for you is, once you find a field, how do you go about finding the address? A lot of people use Onyx. Some people use, I think it's called Beacon. How do you go about doing that?
Yep, so I actually have an Onyx as well, and I use it so I can see all the names of whose land it is and things like that. So we'll just use this as a scenario to make it easy. So I find a feed and I'm like, ooh, I want to hunt this field, right? Because I went out scouting, I'm like, I want to hunt this field. I find out the guy's name. Then at that point, you can look if there's a farm on the land. That, of course, makes it easy. But then what I'll do, if there's no farm, and I just did this actually last night and this morning, I couldn't find the guy. There was no house. It was just a place with no houses. So I came and I went to Casey's where I'm at, and I asked if anybody knew who this guy was.
Yeah.
And they said, no, but we know that the guy at the co-op is. So I went to the farmer's co-op, and I asked if anybody knew him. And they said, no, we didn't have his number, but he lives over here, and you drive up this road, and here's his house. I went over there this morning, because I couldn't get a hold of him last night. I went over there this morning at 7 a.m. waiting, and he wasn't there. Came back at 7:45. There was a car there, so at that point, I went in and I asked the farmer if I could hunt, and that's kind of how I go about it. If I can't find anybody by asking people, I'll get on the internet, right, and I will do whatever I can to get it, because nowadays it's not, hey, this land is owned by this farmer because he's really close.
Yeah.
Land is owned by anybody, anywhere, and it's who farms it. And
yeah, and sometimes
I have this theory, is if you want to hunt it bad enough, you will go to any level to find it. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to go to that level, maybe it's not the spot you think it is.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, sometimes it's more of a process than you actually think it is. It's not just as easy as calling and saying, hey, can I hunt it? And that's it.
No, this is a place that I've drove by 100 times in the last 20 years, and there's never birds. But all of a sudden, when I drove by last night, boom, there were birds in it. And I'm like, it's early in the season. It's not one of my normal places. So I had to figure it out, and I had no idea who this guy was.
Huh. Neat. Alrighty, well, going to question number 2, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you go about the conversation? Do you jump right to the chase usually, or do you kind of talk to him for a little while and warm up to him?
So there's 2 ways I go about this. And I'll use on the same scenario. So I seen this guy, he wasn't in the field working, he was at his house, so I was like, hey, how are you? I'm Kyle. I was wondering if I could hunt X property. It's located here. I wasn't asking for every field. It was, hey, can I hunt here? I have this many people in my group. This is what we're hunting. And I'm pretty much that quick. If he says yes, awesome. Where's the lane? Or just explain so you're all on the same page so there's no issues. And the reason I do that is because we have 6 guys that go in our group, so we normally have 2 trailers.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to get upset. We drive in the one way, we drive in out the same way, so you don't have any issues. So I'm just right at it. Hey, this is Kyle. Hey, I want to know if I can goose hunt here. And it's yes or no.
Okay.
It's that simple. If I go to a place, and I did this last week, to a new place I've never been to, the guy was combining. I waited. He came to the end of the field. I got out of the truck. I waited for him. He turned. I ran over. He stopped. I jumped into the combine really quick. He was working. I'm like, hey, here's who I am. This is what I want to do. Can I hunt this when you're all done?
Okay.
Yes. Perfect.
Gotcha.
And that's what I do. And if it's a no, okay, they will tell you. They are not shy about saying, I don't own it, or hey, somebody doesn't like hunting or whatever. They will come right out and tell you.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just that easy. I don't get all of them, but I don't want to waste their time, because a lot of these guys, especially now, they're working.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to get a hunting spot, right? So
that's a good point.
That's what I do. I like catching them in the field. I don't drive a different vehicle. I drive my truck that I'm going to be out there with. If it's my land, that we're asking permission for, then we kind of go by, I say, how many people are coming? This is when we're coming. And I go from there, and we usually have it the year. I ask every farmer every single year that I've hunted, and I have some piece of property I've hunted for 20 years, and I've literally asked them every single year. And I know that I could just drive in, but I ask.
Yeah, no, that's good, just to be safe every single year.
And the reason why is there's lots of people that hunt, and I just want to make sure I have permission. And there's some kids that were young that are now hunting because they're in high school, and we may be out. And I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's good to clear it every single year. That's for sure. Okay, so question number 3. What are the key things you're looking for when you're setting up? I know we've talked about this personally, but as far as, like the wind direction, how many decoys you want to set, the formation you want to put them in, and like which way the blind's facing, basically.
Okay, so I'm pretty technical when it comes to this. So when I'm going to look at a field, last night when I seen these geese, I used my phone and I took a picture of them. Okay. I wanted to know exactly how they were sitting, how far apart they were, where they were located in the field. Number one out of everything, I looked for my hide. I would rather be 100 yards in a different place and not be seen than I would be just right out in the middle, because that's where they landed. And I know everybody talks about the X. The X isn't always, hey, the birds are 5 rows in on this cornfield, right? It is, they're hitting this feed, because if you actually sit and watch them, they're moving, right? You and me have the same agreement. I will put the panel blinds right in the middle of the field, and I got no worry, right? However, if I got the opportunity to slide a little bit over and the hide's just that much better, I'll do it. I always, if I have a great hide, I have no issue if I'm shooting birds in the front of me or if I'm shooting from the side. I am more apt to look where the sun is. Okay. I would rather have the sun in the bird's eyes coming to me than all the rest of the scenario, because if it's looking in my eyes, we're toast.
Okay, so yeah, so the sun's at your back basically, so that when they're coming in,
that's right. It's at the back, or it's on the side, because I want the birds to land into the decoys, if possible, if the wind helps, right? Looking into the sun or being at an angle, so I don't have to worry about shadows and different things like that. That's what I'm looking at, and then I will adjust my spread from there. Okay. Because if they don't know I'm there, you can get by with some little tricks and things if they don't know you're there. But hey, we all want them coming right in at us, back flapping, right in the hole. That's always the goal, right? But if I'm not seen, you have just better chances. For sure. And as far as the wind direction, do you like to have it right at your back so that they're kind of flapping into the wind? I mean, if I have the perfect scenario and I can be hidden in a great spot, the wind to my back, and I can set everything up in either an X or a J or a tail, I'm all about it, and I would absolutely do that every single time. Okay, perfect. But I'm making that decision after I get permission. I'm making that decision the night before, looking at my weather bug app, finding out where the wind's going to be, and I've got a pretty good idea the night before how I'm going to set up. And yeah, we've got to adjust. The wind changes, and you got to be flexible, right? Yeah. But going in, the only way that I'm off is if all of a sudden it says it's a northeast wind and all of a sudden it's a northwest wind, right? And then you got to kind of scramble. But I have a pretty good idea the night before, because I like to have a plan, because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're all just trying to wake up, and it's like open up the trailers and just thrash, right? Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, Kyle. Well, hey, thank you for talking to us. I bet this was a bunch of good information for everybody. Yeah, we'll probably see you soon hunting with you or something. All right, man. Hey, we'll see you soon. Sweet deal. Alrighty, I just want to say thank you, Kyle, once more for talking to us and giving us some good information on how you go about hunting and how you go about finding fields and actually setting up in them or asking permission. That really helps. Now we're gonna go ahead and give my buddy Colton a call and see how his differs or is the same as what Kyle's opinion was. Again, I'd like to just state that these are just our opinions on how we go about it. It's not the way you have to. People do it all sorts of different ways, but this is just something to get you started, basically, if you're having trouble figuring out how to go about it. What's up, buddy?
What's going on?
Not much, dude. Just filming a video here, you know what I mean?
That's good.
Yes.
Good time to do it, right?
For sure. Freaking, what is it, 8:30? God. Anyways, I'm calling here to get your opinion on some ways. I'm filming a video about how to get permission for certain fields, how you go about it, how you go about maybe setting it up. Just a quick introduction on Colton. He has his own YouTube channel, Chasing Iowa Outdoors. Yes, it'll be linked in the description down below so you guys can check him out there. He does a lot of videos, basically hunting videos, fishing videos. I remember you were diddy pulling just a while ago.
Oh yeah, we had a good time doing that this summer.
For sure. Have you been have you been goose hunting at all this year?
I haven't yet. I've been traveling, but I plan on getting on some birds hopefully this weekend. So it'll be here before we know it. We had a good teal shoot opening weekend.
Yeah.
But I haven't done too much. So I'm excited to get out and shoot some honkers.
For sure. Alrighty, well, jumping right into it. Question number one is, once you find a field, how do you go about finding the guy's address or her address, finding the phone number, stuff like that? Do you use Onyx? I know some guys use like Beacon. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, when I was younger, I would go to Beacon all the time, but Onyx is the way to go. Like, just pay whatever the monthly fee is. I do the annual subscription because it's so nice because you can track, like, where you saw stuff at, if it was ducks, geese, if it's a standard access point.
Yeah.
And then it gives you the landowner's address right there, which is super easy.
Yeah, I remember going when I was younger doing Beacon, and it was just like you had to go to White Pages to find the number, and then you had to go to Beacon to try to actually figure out who owns it. Sometimes it was on there, sometimes it wasn't, but yeah, definitely Onyx is the way to go.
Yeah, I would go Onyx, and then once I have that information, because I mean it tells you right there where they live at, I'd go then to their house 99% of the time.
Okay.
If I can't find them, then I backtrack with Yellow Pages or White Pages or whatever it is online, and just try to find a phone number then that way.
For sure. Alrighty. Number two, how do you go about the conversation? Do you jump right into it, just ask them straight up? I just talked to my buddy Kyle, and he said that he doesn't really like to waste time. He just jumps right into it. Is that kind of the approach you take as well?
So I kind of follow the same route. I'm pretty much straight to the point. I make sure I'm talking to the right person first. I verify the landowner's name. Then I introduce myself. And I say, hey, I always like to make sure that I know what road the field's on, just to make sure that I sound like I know kind of what I'm doing. And give a description of what I'm thinking, what I want to do, and then just ask if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to have all the info of where the actual field's at, where you're going to set up before you even go up to the door, because if they're like, where's it at? And you're like, oh, shoot, I think it's in somewhere in here, and yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it's always good to have that information ahead of time. And if you absolutely cannot remember, just show them on a map. I mean, that's pretty easy. And it's not a bad thing just to confirm with them that you are talking about the right field. Because you never know. Some things could change hands, and just to make sure you're all squared away and good to go. For
sure. Alrighty, lastly, what are the key things that you're looking for when setting up for your decoys, your blind? Are you looking for like a certain wind direction? How many decoys? Just some things like that.
First off, I like to make sure I know which way the wind direction is supposed to be for that morning. That's going to help us kind of get an understanding and also know where the birds are coming from, because there's some things you'll need to play into to factor with that. One is wind. I also like to take the sun into the consideration for that. If I can set up where those birds are facing into the sun towards me as they're coming in, hands down, I'm going to try and do that. If it's a situation where the birds are kind of coming across the field where they'd be coming from, over top of me, the setup, sometimes I'll maybe look at cross-winding them, just depending on the situation with that. And then probably the biggest thing for me is cover and making sure you blend in. Location's a good thing, decoys are a good thing, but unless you're hid, that's probably the most important part. So whether you do layouts, or I saw you guys had some great success with A-frames this last weekend. I've hunted out of them a couple times. I'm going to do that a lot more this year, especially on field edges. That's another thing to take into consideration is how you're going to hide, what you're using for cover, making sure you disappear. And then with the decoys, a lot of guys are going to the dive bombs, which I think are great. They're an inexpensive decoy. You can get a lot of them. You don't have to worry about the spinning. But full bodies are a good thing too. So we'll mix in some full bodies with some silhouettes this year.
Okay.
And I like to at least have, depending on the time of the year, especially later in the season, at least 1 dozen decoys per person that I'm taking is kind of like my general rule when I'm hiding people in layout blinds.
Okay.
And then down the road, it just kind of depends. And you kind of want to mimic what's going on in those fields. You don't want to throw too little of a spread, but you can also have some fun and traffic some birds and throw some real big spreads. So numbers is always a good thing if you can. I mean, decoys, they can be expensive, but slowly accumulate them and divide them up between people and accumulate them over time.
Exactly, and you touched on it earlier with the dive bombs. They're a little bit better price point, and you can get quite a few of them for like a fraction of the cost, and that's a good way to kind of bulk up your spreads in situations where you want to have a big flock out there.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, Colton. Well, hey, thanks for talking to us. I'm sure that this is some good information for everybody. And like I said before, go ahead and check Colton's YouTube channel out below. He does a lot of cool stuff with hunting and everything, and some new videos coming hopefully this weekend. Sweet deal. Alrighty, Colton. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
See ya, bud. Thanks. Alrighty, well, thanks to both of those guys for talking to us a little bit and giving us their information on how they go about setting up the hunt, whether it's asking permission, the actual number of decoys they use, stuff like that. I think it really helps for beginners. And like I said before, a lot of this information is just our opinion on it, so it's not exactly what you need to do. You can do something completely different and it could work for you. That's just how we go about it. Like I said before, go ahead and check Colton's channel out as well, Chasing Iowa Outdoors. It'll be linked in the description down below. He does a lot of cool videos, and yeah, it's a good time. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys got some information, and if you have, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, as we are coming out with a lot more videos just like this one, including maybe a little collab with Chasing Iowa Outdoors himself. Alrighty, that does it. Thank you guys for watching. If you got any good information out of this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button. I really appreciate it. Comment down below if there's any more questions you guys have for us. Without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace!